you're not just learning to write, but you're writing to learn.
Hello, fans of SRSD. My name is Randy Barth from SRSD Online and Writing to Learn. You're watching the SRSD Mentor Series, helping you change student lives forever. This episode is on how SRSD assessment techniques dramatically improve student writing and learning skills. SRSD is the leading research-based method for teaching writing to learn. Today, we begin with the recommendations taken from the What Works Clearinghouse webinar. SRSD researcher Steve Graham tells us how assessment strategies help advance student learning skills in both reading and writing.
So our third recommendation involves the use of assessment of students' writing to inform instruction and feedback. There's 3 basic steps to implement this recommendation. One of the things that you might do in terms of thinking about what instruction might be needed is to take a look at what kinds of strategies students already use. So if they're already using an effective approach for kind of generating or, in a sense, organizing their information, we want to know that up front because we don't want to make that go away. We may end up modifying our strategy to incorporate that in there. We might also find that they're doing very little planning, which is more common. We also want to take a look at what students are writing because we'd like for the strategy, the plan strategy, to make sure that they're including within the composition the things that we think are most important and are most likely to deliver the message that they're going to develop in an effective and clear manner. And so our initial assessments may be on both of those to use the plan strategy. And then once we teach it, we want to regularly monitor whether or not it's working out. And it's not just us regularly monitoring, it's also students doing it at the same time. And part of this regular monitoring ought to be that students may have useful suggestions for how to change the strategy so that it's more effective. The plan strategy I'm particularly familiar with because it was a strategy we developed and did with middle school students. And what we found when we got to the reflection part was that students said, you know, I'm using the plan that I make without any modifications as I write. And we talked about that, and so they added a plan which was to modify as you write. And so a way of thinking about this is we want to do our assessments and analyze what we learn about the students. We then want to take that information in terms of our objectives, goals, feedback, and instruction, and design instruction for teaching that strategy or skills or whatever we're teaching in an effective way. We want to put it into play, and we want to keep assessing to make sure things are working as we do this. And we want to engage students in helping us do that as well. Another important part of this is that if we're graphing as students practice, this provides us as teachers with information where we might consider whether we need to make a modification. So you notice here in this graph, we kind of go flat and then there's a big jump. There was a modification made by the teacher. There's another advantage to doing this if students are involved in this graphing as well. When students can see their progress and see the changes are made, they're more likely to use the new things we're going to teach them. And then finally, a potential obstacle for doing the formative assessment we've been talking about is time. It's always a problem for us. And so one of the things I want to point out here is we can always ask students to be part of this process, and they can carry part of the load for us as well. We can also look at current assignments that we're using to see if we can modify those in ways in which we can make those part of our formative assessment as well.
Thank you, Steve. If you would like to ask more about how SRSD assessment techniques improves writing, email us at info@srsdonline.com.